Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show, and we want to thank you for joining us and participating in this conversation on all platforms, including social media, Instagram at Ben Mulroney Show, YouTube, podcast platforms, the good old-fashioned radio, and streaming apps. It's a conversation that we have with you every single day, and we appreciate your participation. All right. Right at the end of the show yesterday, as I was saying goodbye, is when I learned of the passing of Hulk Hogan. Very sad for a lot of people for whom he meant the world. And let's delve into the conversation with somebody who knows far more about wrestling than I, John Pollock. He's a journalist at Post Wrestling. John, thank you for being here today. How are you feeling today?
Well, it's been kind of just a surreal 24 hours just because in professional wrestling, there's those couple of stories that come around every couple of years that really do break through. And certainly the passing of Hulk Hogan is one of those where, he is somebody that went far beyond just the wrestling bubble and into so many people's childhood and was just a massive crossover star. And you're seeing that with all of the coverage of this.
Well, and that's absolutely right. And just so you know where I'm coming from, I was never the biggest wrestling fan, but God, I mean, Hulk Hogan was everywhere. Like there was no escaping him in pop culture. Look, the WWE is now bigger than it's ever been. But at one point, would it be fair to say that Hulk Hogan was bigger than wrestling?
Yeah, absolutely. Like in the 80s, when Vince McMahon wanted to take his company national, like Hulk Hogan was placed front and center. And this was somebody that, we have such a fractured media ecosystem today, but we look at the 80s and here is someone, he's in Rocky 3. He's on NBC on Saturday night's Main Event. He's getting on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He has a cartoon on CBS. Like he was a real life cartoon hero that came to your local town as well. So, I mean, it does show you just the power of those WWF figures from the 80s that translate so much all these decades later when one of them passes away.
Hey, can you remind me, because again, like I said, I didn't follow it tremendously, but I remember one day I woke up and Hulk Hogan was no more. He was Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, so this was in the mid 90s, and the Hulkamania run had definitely kind of, it had waned, and the audience was ready for something fresh with Hulk Hogan, and he had left the WWF. He was now wrestling for Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling, so they turned him into a heel, into a bad guy in 1996, and it really did revive his career. Like it gave him several added years. It was fresh, and more importantly, it was a massive business boom for WCW at that time, where they did become the #1 promotion. And it was as Hulk Hogan kind of rebranded himself as Hollywood Hogan. And it just the idea of flipping him, it was pretty novel to that audience that had grown up seeing this guy in the traditional red and yellow.
Yeah, that's right. And then he eventually did go back to the moniker of Hulk Hogan. Because correct me if I'm wrong, there was a sort of like a breakup between the WWE or WWF at the time and Hulk Hogan, and he eventually found his way back into the fold, did he not?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fascinating relationship between Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. Both were pretty instrumental to the other. I don't know if there's another figure that could have played the role of Hulk Hogan or been that figure in the 80s. And conversely, like Vince McMahon had the understanding of how to market him. He had the New York territory, which was very key to things. But over time, yes, like Hulk Hogan leaves the WWF in 1993 because at this point he's turning 40 and Vince McMahon has his eye toward like, who's my next star? And Hulk Hogan wasn't really ready to cede that position. And to his credit, I mean, he was still a big draw when he would go to WCW, but there was a fracturing of that relationship. But one of the tried and true methods of operation for a Vince McMahon is that if there is money to be made, he puts any kind of animus behind him, as did Hulk Hogan, and they worked together once again after WCW went out of business, and they got the nostalgia run out of Hulk Hogan. But there were always highs and lows with that relationship, that the two, that they could be very aligned, and it could also be a contentious relationship, usually coming down to money and creative direction.
I want to talk about sort of the controversies in the life of Hulk Hogan, and and how he changed culture, sometimes by accident, when he took the website Gawker to court. That was a huge a trial, and the result was the dismantling of a very influential website.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for just what you can see in the coverage is, for many people, it's this last 10 years that is going to be like the most recent, and it deserves a lot of focus. And for those unfamiliar with the story, in 2012, Gawker obtained a sex tape involving Hulk Hogan, and they posted the tape. And this led to a lawsuit filed by Hulk Hogan against the website, later revealed to be funded by Peter Thiel, and it ended up taking the Gawker site down completely. And later, a further tape was released that had the audio on it, and this was very damning for Hulk Hogan in 2015, where this included a bunch of racist language, and it was pretty catastrophic to Hulk Hogan's career, to his brand, and WWE for a time ceased ties with Hogan as well. But as you can see, with all the pieces that are being written and people remembering Hogan, it's impossible to detach that from this man's legacy, because it's so fresh. And it really did culminate with this pretty surreal moment earlier this year. It was Hulk Hogan's final appearance at a WWE arena, and he was booed out of the building.
Wow.
And it was a pretty staunch proclamation by this WWE audience that we're moving away from this Hulk Hogan figure. And it was, that is a big part of Hulk Hogan's legacy, is like this dark period as well that is attached to him.
Yeah, but we may have proximity bias, right? Because it's still fresh. And I wonder, from your perspective as an expert, how are wrestling fans, and there are so many of them, I mean, they are legion, and they are in the millions at this point. Are they a forgiving bunch, meaning 15, 20 years from now, as we look back at Hulk Hogan and what he has meant, not just to wrestling, but to popular culture? Are we going to look at him through a more forgiving lens?
I think that's certainly, I don't feel that Hulk Hogan was in a position where it was irredeemable, that he could not have, apologized in a certain level. Or the issue with Hulk Hogan that I think some have is that when this guy was in front of a camera, or just in public, he was always on, and he was just a performer to his core. But in that, you never really knew what was for show, where was the real person buried in all of this, who was Terry Bollea. And at least to those that were around him, it was just felt like this was a guy that never fully made amends for this. And I think that's the frustration among some fans and frankly colleagues. Like, it is notable, some of the younger performers that, you're seeing tributes that are coming out within the industry, but it's a lot more of Hulk Hogan's colleagues.
Right. So that was going to be my last question to you. I have to believe that those who were in the trenches with him in the 80s, those who helped build what became the foundation to this massive WWE monster, I have to assume the older generation is remembering him more kindly.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment, not to paintbrush everyone. But I mean, Hulk Hogan was it can't be understated, just the revenue driver that he was. And for these people, there was a period where WWF, they were running up to 4 shows a night. It was an insane schedule that they were running. And if you were on a Hulk Hogan card, I mean, you benefited from that because you were paid a percentage of the live gate.
Wow.
So he brought, no one begrudged Hulk Hogan in that position, because he made money, and he was the golden goose for so long with a lot of those contemporaries.
John Pollock, thank you so much for joining us and for helping to add some definition to this man that we experienced but probably didn't really know. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of The Ben Mulroney Show.